What makes Limbus Company's character good and where a lot of games fail?
Limbus Company has some of the best written characters I've seen out of any game. That's right, these 12 fools of varying stature and stupidity are among the best written characters I've seen from a video game. And on hearing that, you may ask, why do you care so much about these chibi's that are made in Microsoft Paint? Is it their development, their archetypes, and how those interact with each other, or is it that they have really interesting flaws in their character? And whilst all that is a big part as to why I love the cast, my thoughts can be simplified into just one statement: they aren't idiots. Which, to anyone who's played the game, that may sound like the stupidest shit you've ever
Okay, well, so far, I would say Donkey Kong is giving me a little bit mixed feelings.
heard, on account of the fact that top to bottom, left to right, this is by far the dumbest cast of characters I have ever witnessed. Truly, it cannot be understated just how dysfunctional these 12 are. Yet at the same time, I find it hard to put into words the severity of the brain damage you see coming out from them on the daily. It's weird. Right here you have the stupidest cast I've seen whilst being some of the best written characters in a video game. Why is that the case? How can Limbus Company as a story have moments where you horrifically fail to infiltrate a casino, causing a stealth mission to turn into a Gears of War segment, with a part that has a white boy busting it down sexual style, or have a vengeful organization hunt you down in the sea, killing you?
I think I'm gonna get spoiled a little bit, right? Actually noticed there are a bunch of content that I would basically love to react to, but I also realizing that maybe it's gonna be spoiler to upcoming Kantos, and like currently going to the Kanto 4. But also at the same time, by the time I will probably going to the Kanto 9, well, let's be real, I might gonna be a father and like having 6 kids already.
You for 2 hours straight over some stolen hair coupons, or have the protagonists completely obliterate each other 10 minutes after introducing themselves. How can it have shit that feels ripped from a drunk D&D session, yet also have stories about improving yourself as a person, where we see people struggle with viewing their entire life as a failure due to the person they could have been, seeing someone have their life consumed with nothing but blind obsession, or witness a story of a character who has had everything crumble before them and see the
Okay, I feel like maybe I shouldn't watch this video, but at the same time, I already, 2 minutes in. I don't want to stop it. I'm just really surprised seeing the Heathcliff here, because the previous video that I've made was basically the tier list of, a certain getting late type of characters. And seeing basically Heathcliff here, it's really interesting.
Takes to rise from that. Basically, how can we go from this
Maybe she ghosted him
Beach volleyball?
to this?
왜 계속 저를 막아요? 왜 계속 시계를
Okay,
돌려주는
I'm not
거예요?
reading. I'm not
그래서
reading.
당신이 몰았는다고?
Guys, I'm not reading.
그렇게 좋게 넘어가려는 듯이
I'm
착한
still not
척하면
reading.
속이 편해요.
And somehow have the narrative be more than slightly cohesive while actually working really well. Short answer is
Honestly, I have to say that so far that what I've played, it's actually really good. Like when it comes to the characters, like overall, I'm not entirely sure if it's the best like gaming character ever written, because surely there's gonna be, bunch of great games. But I would say when it comes to gacha space, like overall, it's probably like on top of my tier.
Limbus Company is
For
goated.
sure.
Long answer is the rest of this video. So to take you on the tale of these 12 dysfunctional adults accompanied by their
It's kind of funny seeing Mersault in this, kinda drawing, because all the time he's very serious, very meticulous, and yeah, like this just face doesn't like suit him at all.
Let's talk about the beginning of the game. I ain't gonna talk terribly much on world building, as even though this video is for people getting into the game as well as current players, I'm mainly just gonna focus on the writing for the characters. I'll only explain world building when it's inherently necessary. So the game starts with Dante, the player character,
glad I
removing
didn't
their
pause
cranium
it.
from their body so they can put a clock prosthetic in its place. Don't question it too much. From there, the 12 sinners, basically your squad, get introduced, and they all die horrifically in battle to only be revived after the player character goes to the Gate of Truth from fucking Full Metal Alchemist. Now,
Honestly, this is Door from Tower of God, like for sure. Especially because this is Korean game, right? Maybe correct me if I'm wrong, but also noticing that basically Tower of God is made from SIU, basically guy from the Korea as well. So maybe, the guy could be, a little bit inspired, at least by the freaking Door.
anyone who has yet to play the game is probably questioning a lot, but again, don't worry about it. After this, introductions are to be had. This is our first time getting to know the characters, so we can be sure to see all their quirks, characteristics, motivations, everything that will make us care about them for the rest of the game.
That's deep.
Brother, what the fuck was that? He literally just took his nerdy face, tired eyes, a damn Beatles bowl cut having ass, and just said his name. He's going to be with us throughout the entire journey, and this was all he had to say.
I mean, for real, if someone asked me, you know, in a real life, I would probably reply the same way.
Really?
Like, what else do you want?
What if I told you that despite the tragedy of his intro, which lasted roughly 20 frames in total, he is one of the most beloved characters in the entire game.
Oh,
I know
really?
that sounds maybe a smidge strange at first, but his introduction shows a part of why I really like Limbus's writing. Because in a ton of games, when a character is introduced, it feels like we're out here just reading a damn job application. A character pulls up going like, I trained in sword fighting since I was an adult. I loved my family. The Demon Lord's army killed my town and family. I now wish to shove my sword up the Demon Lord's ass. And I'm just meant to care about this bitch? Like, this isn't a therapy session, brother. I just met you. Why do you think I give a shit about your family? And then the hero has some moment of, oh my god, this is such a tragedy. Human life is sacred. How could those demons do this? Like we didn't just call a fucking meteor to decimate some simple bandits 4 minutes before this cutscene. When you introduce a character, you need to keep in mind one simple question. Does the audience realistically give a shit about this person? And the answer is, 9 times out of 10, God no, we really don't. So I don't care to have an exposition dump about why I should give a damn about them. I'ma forget—
At least like from my personal like feelings or impressions when I'm playing the game, I usually don't care about the character as much, basically at first. So the very first impression is kinda, you know, essential, but like if the character is like yap a lot and introducing himself or herself, you know, or itself, they're doing this and that, it's probably gonna be like really tiresome. If you introducing the lore of the character like gradually, I feel like it will last longer when it comes to, you know, gamers' interest.
that shit like 10 minutes after.
At least mine.
Which is why I appreciate the story just introducing a character and going like, you know nothing about them right now. You couldn't care less about them. But give us time and we'll make you love them. That is a much more natural approach to a story rather than trying to list off reasons.
Just imagine like you're going for a date and like, hey, my name is Tivi, I'm 45 years old and I really like doing this and that. When I was actually young, I broke my leg and I had a really terrible headache. Already at this point, the girl is leaving and looking for the closest or the fastest bus possible.
We should care about a random person we just met. And it takes confidence to be able to do that, especially because Limbus Company is a gacha game, so selling players on the characters is by far the most important thing for the longevity of a game in this genre. Like, these 12 are the only ones you'll be using in the entire game, so if you ain't sold on them, then players would just dip, and many games recognize this.
This is also, I would say, kinda really bold move, and I kinda understand why not many gacha games especially are doing this, because selling as a one specific character that basically you cannot tweak in a way, it's very difficult. Like, it's so much easier to basically, you know, create a new waifu that you can eventually collect in the upcoming update, but this requires basically a lot of preparation and a lot of sensible work and basically craft for the game.
Especially gachas. So they try to shove any positive traits about a character down your throat the second you meet them. But Limbus is able to sell its audience on its world building and writing before anything. It's not desperately trying to make players love the characters. That'll come with time. And with saying that, you may think that even though in the early chapters we don't see much development happen for this cast of 12, then we'll surely see it happen in the later chapters. I mean, shit, the game's been out for a year with constant, maybe constant's a bit of a copeful term, but it's been out for a year with updates.
I would say that there is so much content, to be honest. Like, I'm basically jumping right here. Oh my god. Episode 5 is basically almost twice longer than the third one, and I believe the third one, for me, like, personally, it was, like, crazy long. I feel like when it comes to content overall, definitely plenty. What I've noticed, though, is, for instance, when I play the Kanto 1 and, like, figuring out a little bit the Gregor or the history of the Gregor, it still feels like I scratch barely the surface. surface, you know what I mean? Like sometimes, especially maybe the Kanto 3, because the Sinclair has so far been the most interesting Kanto, yet I feel like there are so many basically hidden, you know, information, so the lore that I would like to discover more, you know, about these characters. I would say there is plenty information, plenty content, but also at the same time still feel like we scratching the surface when it comes to these characters.
Happening sometimes. So surely we should have already seen the development for
Overall,
these
a
12
lot of
fine specimens
content.
of brain rot. And the answer is, half of them are yet to be fully explored in any meaningful way. I'm not fucking with you. Half of these hoes is backstory, goals.
Okay, so we don't actually have the Don Quixote yet. Honestly, when I'm looking at it, what I am looking the most is probably gonna be my boy Mersault. I low-key really wanna know Don Quixote. Also, low-key, I'm kind of figure it out, or wanna figure it out, what the heck is, you know, wrong with the Faust? Like, why is she so quiet? Was she always the quiet, or did she get divorced and like start being quiet? Things like that. Kind of want to know.
Are still unknown. I mean, we have a general idea of what their chapters will be like, because all of these centers are based off of classic literature. Like Heathcliff is based off of Wuthering Heights, and in his canto we go to, you guessed it, Wuthering Heights. Ishmael is based off of Moby Dick, Mersault is based off The Stranger, which is some weird French book or something, and Sinclair is based off of the most homoerotic thing I have ever read, Damien. And because of this, we can take a guess at what these centers as Kanto will be like. Also, in case
maybe you can guys let me know, is it worth to perhaps react to books related to this game? Because I feel like there would be also maybe a rather interesting lore, or, you know, the details to kind of react to and figure it out. Maybe a certain, you know, abilities, traits, and a little information or inspiration about
you don't
the
know,
characters.
Kanto is basically a character's chapter. As in Limbus, a chapter, or Kanto, is a deep dive into a specific character. But even though they generally follow the themes of the original books, we don't know for sure what will happen in them or the twist that will be spun onto the narrative. Yet despite the fact that half of the cast ain't got their Kanto, the community still loves every character in the game. So why is that the case? Why do we care about these characters before any huge development for them has happened? And there's many answers, but the main one to me is the characters don't feel restricted. Which I know sounds weird, but here's an example. Ryoshu.
She
is downright insane, even more so than the others on the bus. Yes, by the way, their house is a bus, don't question it. But she decides to speak in abbreviations, and also wishes for nothing more than to splay the guts of your enemies and create magnificent art from their corpses. Like, okay, I never said she was a saint, right? And the thing with that is, we don't know why. The plot is yet to tell us, so we just need to take guesses. We'll probably know why in her canto, though as of now, zero clue. Same goes with Don Quixote. She's all about justice and has done some of the stupidest shit because of that. Hell, if we know why she has that fixation, she just does. That is to say, the characters don't feel like the plot demands of them. It doesn't feel like, oh, this is Ishmael's canto, so everyone else just shut the hell up and don't exist. Instead, in every canto, we see hints of who a character really is and small developments that happen from them, which is much more believable than having a mostly static character suddenly change when the writers think it's their turn on the development wheel.
Actually, that's something what I also noticed. Like, my very first impression when the people told me that the Kanto 1 is gonna be about the Gregor, I thought we will just like solely focus on the Gregor, but that there were so many, basically plenty interactions with other sinners, so there was actually really nice. It feels like it's not Kanto just like solely about one person, but you having a little bit more information about them.
In Limbus, all, or at least most, of the development is generally planned out, as we've seen CGs that exist for some cantos months before they were released. Because of this, the characters feel thought out and are doing their own thing in the story, instead of the story ignoring a character until it is their own canto. Which is why these 12 already have interesting character despite half of them not being focused on in the story yet. This approach to the story makes little lines here and there double back with a ton of meaning later. Like one throwaway line is when Ishmael says that Dante is incompetent as a manager.
I mean, it's kinda true. So far as I've played, it's kinda true.
넘어간 건가요? 실망이에요. 아무리 그래도 다른 누구도 아닌 관리자님인데 이번에야말로 전에 겪은 실패라는 치욕을 닦아내려 주실 수 있을
I'm
줄만
on her
알았는데.
side.
She said that after she saw her stealth mission in the casino become about as botched as Heathcliff's hairline. Now, first time hearing her chew us out, everyone just thought, yep, shit OG, you right, we kinda dumb, not gonna lie. But we didn't notice these small changes that happen afterwards. As before that line, Ishmael was more open with the group and interested in seeing Dante's ability in management. She wasn't precisely buddy-buddy, but bare minimum, she was being approachable. Then as time goes on, she sees how dumb we are and eventually tells Dante some shit you would hear out of Gordon Ramsay. After this scene, bit by bit, she starts talking less in the story. She takes a backseat to any conversations and doesn't really talk to anyone unless it's needed. And she mainly pipes up about how insufficient we are as a group. This boils over to the C event where she snaps after hearing how
I just realized and remember this particular scene, or basically this particular scenario. I was really pissed about the Vergilius. Like, that dude was like so useless, it literally made my blood boil. I don't know if this dude, the strongest dude ever created in the entire lore, in the entire universe. The fact he literally just stood there and then left and go back to the bus kinda pissed me
we're
off.
going to be going up against the Palid Whale. By then, she's shouting about everyone's inadequacies and not wanting to take part in any fun activities because they need to train for what they're about to do. And many players were confused why she was going down this road so suddenly, as at the time we had no answers, so we just assumed that the Great Lake, which was the place they were going to, basically just imagine the Grand Line from One Piece, was just that scary. And she wanted us to be strong so we didn't get annihilated. But that's not why she grew distant from the group, and the signs of it existed ever since that casino scene. As she grew distant because she saw Dante's inadequacy to be a good leader and how the group was filled with lobotomites. The importance behind that was how she wanted a strong leader and group to help her kill the person she had a vendetta against, Ahab. And after she figured out how weak the group was during the casino heist, she knew that they wouldn't be able to really guide her and help her with her vendetta. Because of that, she started speaking less, as we wouldn't have really been useful in that goal of hers. But we never knew that was the reason why. The story never told us that until it was the right moment too. Months before this was revealed, we saw her get fed up with the group. Most just thought she was being a hard ass. Then we saw her speak less and just assumed that she was taking a backseat to the story. Maybe they couldn't write her in, who knows? But nah. It all existed to show the obsession she had with her goal, how that consumed every action in her life, which is the big overarching theme in her canto. And the story didn't care to explicitly tell us this because it was not yet time for that. We only found out why months later. That is what makes an interesting character. We see small signs of something bigger and the story doesn't feel the need to
Okay, now I
bash us
kind
over
of
the head
looking
with
forward
it.
to it.
Hell, most of us missed these signs or forgot about them entirely. I only picked up on this when I was playing through the earlier chapters. But that's an example of a believable character trait. The game didn't feel the need to throw up a flashing sign saying, "She thinks y'all are dumbasses, so she's speaking less in the group as y'all won't be able to achieve her goals." The story assumes that bare minimum the audience has unlocked the mythical human DLC known as fucking reading comprehension. Now unfortunately a lot of people lack that shit, ain't gonna lie, but I appreciate a story that treats the viewers like adults. An example of the opposite would be Genshin Impact,
really
where
rare
if a character shows a tiny sign
in
of something
Genshin
greater,
space.
Paimon feels the need to rupture our eardrum in explanation of that fact. They've been doing it less, but the story is filled with moments where something happens and instead
It's
of
too
letting
late
the
to
player
save
think
that.
about why a character is doing that in particular, we just hear Paimon rattling off about it. Deadass like Dora the Explorer levels of explanation to the player. Homie, just shut the hell up and let me think for once. I don't like when the writing feels the need to explicitly explain in detail everything. Goddamn, treat the player like we have some neurons left. It feels natural that way.
Well, you have to also realize some people just don't.
Something else that makes the writing good is how the characters act, well, in character. To put it simply, a lot of stories feel like we need to hit X, Y, and Z as plot points. So to do that, we need these characters to do this, which then furthers the story so we can get to some big plot reveal later down the line. Limbus instead feels like, we have these characters, and the story will be purely and solely about them. The world already has so much development about it, but the plot will not be focused on just exploring the world. The centerpiece is the characters, and as a byproduct, the world can be further explored. Because of this different mindset, the plot feels like characters existing in a world and dealing with their problems, as opposed to them going through the world due to the plot. An example of something that fails at this is Wuthering Waves, which, whilst I really love the game and have been farming it full time, the writing is about as complex as a 2D Rubik's Cube, but brother, it's kind of ass. And it really feels like a game that has characters just move.
I mean, I would say the very, like, till 2.0, it was rather slow. then like lately it's getting like really really better. But maybe it's also because of the the pacing of the story, things like that. I kind of found Limbus way more, I would say, digestible, if that kind of makes sense, because sometimes when you discover really important information about the lore and then you having the cut to having some type of fighting, or you have to travel somewhere, that kind of interest or the momentum when it comes to that lore kind of vaporizing, kind of disappears. So I kind of found this in the Limbus rather really well made, even though sometimes I would cut some fights like completely out so I can having this like unbroken chain of the story. Overall, it's
the
pretty
player,
decent
through the plot. Like, you wake up and these motherfuckers are already glazing you frame one. They treat you amazingly,
okay.
have you go off with them to the city, protecting you the best they can along the way. We don't see anything remotely interesting come from them. We can see their character traits. I mean, at the beginning it shows Achisha is very animated. But you really mean to tell me someone pops up out of nowhere and all of a sudden everyone treats them like God and for whatever reason is willing to immediately send them into combat to save their friend? Like, motherfucker, I'm an amnesiac. Why are you sending me to fight a monster? It makes sense gameplay-wise as it sets up a tutorial for the player, but
that's good enough
character-wise,
to me.
why would she have faith in us
Yeah.
being able to whip some ass after being unconscious for who knows how long, whilst we can't even remember our name? Lest we even talk about how after fighting this demon that looks ripped straight from Elden Ring,
I mean, I have to say, this was a really memorable moment for me because that was a really cool introduction to like the overall combat style. Unlike the competitors game.
Chisha cares more about our health more than, I don't know, her damn friend for who knows how many years that was also fighting that roided out skeleton? Who acts like this? Why are you more concerned
Simps.
with the person you met 5 minutes ago? Then after that, all they do is just spout out information about the world and bring you to whatever place you specifically need to go to. They don't feel like characters. They don't have any personal motivations or aspirations. They're just encyclopedias that also treat us like a god. That's not believable. People don't act like that. Limbus even has a character that also treats the protagonist like a god, but she does that at a very obvious ass-kissing because she used to work in the army, so she knows how the chain of command is and is just acting that way for brownie points. It makes sense for her to do that, but nobody else treats Dante like that. At the start, everyone treats him like a fool who doesn't know much, because guess what? They're an
Including me.
amnesiac in a city that has people murdering and cannibalizing each other 24/7. There's no reason to
Oh
place
my.
any hopes or such on the protagonist. Aside from their
Okay,
revival
there's gotta be
ability,
interesting
they're
content.
a liability. So by having characters that are distant, they feel much more believable than a cast that feels specifically engineered to treat the protagonist like a messiah. What actually feels believable is what happened in CBT-1, where after the rover just magically absorbed the strong-ass roided Skeletor, Chisha thought the rover was a threat and pointed a Glock at him. That makes more sense when you look at a world that is currently in a war against monsters and out of nowhere,
did you say
this
to me?
random stranger just absorbs the strongest one y'all have ever seen. You should be concerned. Why are they able to do that? They should be considered a threat, not immediately asked, after absorbing something that was whooping our ass, if they can grill those monsters and eat them. Like, what the hell is that? That's why the characters in Wuthering Waves don't feel very natural. They exist to just further the plot, help the rover, and explain
I mean, same
damn near
with the
everything
Genshin, to
to
be
them.
honest.
The plot demands that the player gets this done, so a character will be the one to help with that, instead of the plot feeling like the characters are naturally moving through it to progress the story. Meanwhile, let's look at how Kanto 3 handles its plot and characters. So,
Oh, my favorite
Virgilius
one.
brings up how we're going to the nest of K-Corp. From that, Sinclair shows a lot of worry, to the point of throwing up. And
Yeah, he
we don't know
shits his
why.
pants, by
he
the
isn't
way.
telling us anything. Then we try to get past the security checkpoint of K-Corp, and because Dawn saw injustice happening, she decided to intervene in what the security was doing at the checkpoint. From everything we saw for her character in the past, that action makes sense. From there, since we now pissed off the security of an incredibly strong nest, we proceed to have the sinners killed over and over because one of them was a dumbass and did something that is entirely in character. Now, after that ass whooping, we move on, and Virgilius then gives Dawn an ass whooping only a disappointed parent could really dish out, cause she did some dumb shit. That dumb shit, in line with her character, it makes sense. That ass whooping, in line with his character, that makes sense. Then Sinclair shows
And he disappeared back to the bus. That makes sense.
even more worry when he realizes that we're going to his old town. Again, doesn't tell us why. Gets terrified when he hears Cromer speak. Doesn't tell us why. He eventually says the basics of what N-Corp has done, but he doesn't dig deep into his past and why he's scared of them. He doesn't whip out a damn PowerPoint presentation onto why they're raging assholes. We only see why he feels that way when his memories are forcibly displayed, which
I mean, it makes perfect sense, right? Like, if you're just thinking logically, as someone who is, really depressed by, a really tremendous, horrendous experience, basically, like, your entire bloodline gets wiped out by some, like, one crazy chick. Of course, you're not gonna be like, hey, this and that happened to me. This is basically more human-like behavior, so that's why it make more sense.
shows that the reason behind him not saying
It's,
anything
like,
is because of the guilt he
relatable.
has for his past, which was that when he was in school, he let Cromer into his world. Afterwards, she led a group to kill his family because they wore prosthetics, and N-Corp, of which she's a part of,
Then she didn't
hates
like her
anyone
anymore.
who wears them. Now, if he didn't show Cromer where he lived, then his family would have had a better chance of, not being murdered. So it makes sense that he never brought anything up about his past until it was forcibly said, as the guilt was holding him back. All of these actions are in line with the characters and their motives. Dawn is a dumbass. She will do dumb shit. Virgilius is a guide. He will guide. Sinclair is consumed by guilt. He's not gonna
Let's be real, Vergilius, so far, to my understanding, all he does is just aura farming.
out his past off to anyone with an ear just cause it relates to the plot. Then let's look back at Wuthering Waves. The scene is that you are about to fight essentially the commander of the enemy army that is currently leading a siege against the
Honestly, I feel like this dude is slightly biased towards the Wuthering Waves. I wonder if he also dislikes the other games or just,
city you're now a part of. On your team, you have yourself, the person who's treated you like a god since Frame 1, and the literal commander of the entire city's army who has been fighting this battle in the north for a long-ass time. Now, ahead is the enemy commander. Behind is some fodder that is closing in on you. What currently makes sense for these characters to do? Have the commander with years of battle experience push on and fight the enemy commander, which, when they die, will take out all the enemy forces. Or maybe have everyone deal with the fodder and when an opening appears, go off to fight the enemy boss. Or does it make more sense for the commander of the army, by far the person with the most experience, to then sit in the back and deal with the fodder as he sends off the person with amnesia and some megasimp to fight this fucking Dark Souls boss? You guessed correctly. Yeah. He wants to leave the fighting of an incredibly strong foe to the two people he just met as he sits in the back and plays with the basic bitches. That makes no damn sense. At least with the rover, he is testing to see if they are the chosen one. But why are you sending off their mega simp in place of you to fight the enemy commander? If that is the level of confidence for the leader of your forces, it's no wonder y'all have been in a stalemate for a minute. He's a damn fool. Him saying he'll stay behind exists purely so Yang Yang could have this hero moment where she stays behind instead, protecting us, the person.
That's why we need the Geshuling backs, ladies and gentlemen.
She met like 4 days ago. It's not character driven at all. He said that just so her hero moment could happen. Logically, it doesn't make sense. The writers wanted that scene and didn't care if the characters had to suddenly become idiots to make it happen. That is what I'm talking about when the writing feels like the plot has the characters doing shit to hit points as opposed to the characters being themselves and having shit happen from that. And I do hate to shit on Wuthering Waves as I really like the game, but by far the story is the weakest aspect of it. I'm playing it on the daily, but we need to keep it real. That is the one aspect we can't defend that much. So that's a preamp as to why I like the little things behind the character development and writing in Limbus Company. The stuff that makes the cast feel believable. Let's now talk about the front and center development for them. So as I said, every canto is about a specific character story. It fully dives into who they are. The only exception to this though are the first 3 cantos, Gregor, Roygia's, and Sinclair's. Those do a good job of introducing the character and what they're really about, but they don't go the extra mile for resolving their conflict, like Canto 4 to 6 does. Main reason is because those cantos introduce characters that will be much more important later on in the general story. So they feel like a bookmark that we'll return to later and then see more development on those fools. And also the fact that they were released chapters doesn't do much to help them lengthwise, as I'm pretty sure Canto 6 is larger than the first 3 put together. But to drive home why I...
Are you telling me the 6? Okay, like, hearing this information kinda don't want me to push forward as quickly. Like, don't get me wrong, I really enjoying the game, and like overall, the atmosphere, character, story, pretty much like everything. But one thing that I kinda don't like is how it's getting like more extensive. I feel like Kanto 1 was like a perfect line, at least like to me. The fact I'm gonna be playing the game like further and further, and I will have like double, triple, quadruple the amount of the time before I finishing one Kanto. I mean, obviously I can put it in multiple parts, right? But I don't know, maybe the line is just not for me, but I really hoping that this story is gonna be like entertaining enough so I can looking forward to split, let's say, one Kanto in 4 sessions, things like that.
Really love the characters. I'm going to talk about Kanto 4 and 5, as those are the prime examples of what Project Moon looks to write throughout all of their works.
Ah, shit.
Now, since this video is meant for
We're
people
getting
interested
into
in the
Kanto
game
4,
and for
so
current players, when I go into spoilers, I will explicitly mark it out. Though when it comes to
Okay.
Limbus Company storytelling,
gotta
there is a lot
close
to
my
unpack.
eyes.
There's a city that has all these different districts which have some insane technology in each of them, like the ability to regenerate your body instantly or teleport to other dimensions and even repackage and use time. With that district also taking away color from everything as well, because honestly, they're just kind of dicks. There's also the mafias known as the fingers, like index, middle, thumb, etc. But the thing is, most of this isn't imperative to the story. Yeah, don't get it twisted. The story takes you on gigantic turns and shows how insane the world is. Like, straight up, in Kanto 5, you fight a whale the size of the average American. But the development of the characters is much more grounded in reality.
Oh, so
It
Kanto
takes
5
insane
is about
settings, shit
Heathcliff?
you'd expect from a game that's mixed with fantasy and a
Oh.
technologically dystopian city, but then it brings you through a story that feels more akin to psychoanalysis. And you know what? Immediately after saying that, I feel like I'm venturing into the fucking Rick and Morty fandom mindset of, oh, you must have a strong intellectual mind to understand Limbus Company. And I wouldn't say that's the case. The story doesn't treat the player like a dumbass, but it isn't exactly rocket science either. So I don't mean psychoanalysis as you'll need a damn PhD to decipher this. I mean to say it talks about the problems a lot of people face on the daily, and then talks about how to overcome those problems or how to deal with them. For example, let's take Kanto 4. It talks about Yi-sang's past and how regret changed him and his companions. It starts by telling us why he decided to make technology in the first place.
So
what
Kanto
drove
4
him
is
as
about
an engineer,
Yi-sang.
with him making it apparent that
Nice.
he doesn't really care about money or fame. I mean, fuck, in the cook-off event, he literally wants to eat a rotten potato. Nobody was forcing him, by the way. I want to make that clear.
Okay.
This was a conscious effort wanting
That's
to
disgusting
consume that
spoiler.
whilst people were actively cooking food that, whilst being known throughout all definitions as unbearable ass, was at least not poisonous. So he doesn't give a shit about raking in the cash to drop by Gordon Ramsay's place. This motherfucker would be satisfied from the food he finds in a trash can. The only thing that matters
He's
to
just
him is the
humble, you
League
know?
of Nine, which was a group made by his friends, and all they did was just make technology, and Yi-sang was fine with that. He didn't even care about making some bread from his technology. Hell, he even offered to donate his money to the League when they were in a pinch. Then, as time passed in the group, Yi-sang noticed little fights being formed between the members, due to a clash in ideologies. But because he had always lived his life in a very meek and slantwise way, he never held the confidence to help resolve these conflicts. He just let them be. Then later T-Corp, which is the name of the wing they were in, decided to ransack the League for the technology they made because it was unregistered. Due to this, the group split up, and a gap between the members was further wedged after it became apparent that one of them informed T-Corp about what the League was doing. After the split up, Yi-sang lost all purpose in his life. The only thing he loved was the League, and now it's broken apart.
Okay,
Leaving him just regretting
Just to make sure, guys, I'm kind of like half listening, so I'm still gonna be really surprised by the Kanto by the time I'm gonna be playing it.
not being a better friend, regretting how he let the group members fight even after seeing the
It's gonna
signs
take
that
some time
members
anyway.
were growing distant to one another. He fell into a depression, and during this time he looked into the mirror. Not an actual mirror, by the way, it's a piece of technology he refined called the mirror. Now the mirror technology has the ability for the user to see into parallel
Okay,
worlds.
that was
Now, when he
maybe
was looking
the
through each
biggest
parallel
spoiler to me.
universe, he was searching to see the life of the Yi-sang in that world. And then he came across Song Yi, a version of himself that was his ideal. You basically imagine seeing the best version of yourself. Literally the you if you didn't make mistakes. If you got straight A's, worked out daily, was a prodigy. Imagine the best person you could be, that was Song Yi. And he was able to interact with him. Due to this, his depression only furthered. Think about it like this. He was at the lowest point in
literally
his
me.
life, shackled down by his regret for not doing anything to stop the League from falling apart. He basically had his life crumble and was blaming himself for all of it. Then he looked into the mirror and saw a different version of him living their best life, represented by having wings on their back, showing
Okay, I maybe should read the book about the Yisang, or the inspiration, because so far what I'm hearing, it's literally kind of resemble my
freedom.
my
So
life.
he became depressed because he viewed Sangyi as evidence that he truly failed in life. Yeah, to put it into normie terms, grass toucher terms, real life terms, it's as if you failed at a big moment in life, which many of y'all can probably say you have. And after failing, you kept that regret
Yeah,
saying,
most
oh,
likely.
if I just studied more, I would have been accepted into that college. If I just did better on that date, I would be going out with that person. Or maybe thinking that
Or if I put $10,000 in the Bitcoin in 2000 something.
if you were able to get that dream job, you would be
Yeah.
so much happier than you are now. Imagine any time in your life you were filled with regret over your past. Then think, what if you saw a different version of yourself that didn't make those same mistakes, and you were just elated in that timeline?
Loki, I'm literally seeing that dude every single day I open my eyes.
And really
I
living
see
your
it
dream.
like in front of
Most
me.
people would look at that as proof that they failed in life.
Also, that's
Because-
the like a reason, maybe a little bit side notes, but that's kind of also the reason why I keep like pushing forward. Even though there's been days that I feel like really depressed and stuff, I still see that like the best version of myself. Pretty much like 90% of the time, I know what I need to do on the daily basis to get closer to my best version of myself. But yeah, like overall, I'm kind of looking forward to
you
see
don't
the
have your
Kanto
wings
4.
because you took a
or play
wrong
it.
path. That means you can never achieve what the ideal version of yourself has. And that is precisely what Yi Sang did.
That's called
He hated
perfection.
himself, viewing his life as worthless because he wasn't able to be the same person in that other world. And now
Okay, now I have to say that this is just, the way of thinking. Like, obviously, nothing's perfect, nobody can be perfect, everything can be improved. But, like, as far as I've understood now, the dude is literally giving up before even, give it a try. Having the strong willpower to go against your, dark thoughts, that's just literally superpower. I would say that's the real bravery.
I'll be venturing into spoiler territory, so skip to this time on screen if you do not want to be spoiled for Kanto 4. But as the story progresses, Yi
gonna
Sang
be
looks through his life and his conversations
Taking out
with Sang Yi,
the
and very
earphones.
slowly comes to the realization that even if he doesn't have his wings, even though he's failed in life, seeing a version of himself with the wings doesn't mean that he can no longer get them, that his past failures have ruined his life. He comes to understand that because a version of him has the wings, that means he is able to get them. He may not be the person in the mirror, but they are a reflection of himself, so those wings, despite him not having them, just seeing them means he has the ability to gain them. It's
Okay, I'm
like
not-
when
I'm
someone
not
gets
watching.
obsessed with only looking at their failures and says
I don't
there's
know
no
who
way
is
for
he
them to get
fighting
better.
for.
Yet they're
or
blind to all the
against.
potential they have as a person, everything they can do to get better. That mindset of, I've already
I
failed,
think it's
so
gone.
what? Creates a vicious cycle for someone to live in.
This is gonna
And
be
Kanto
great,
4
Kanto.
shows
I'm
just
so
what it's like.
excited.
Yi Sang was unable to live due to regret, and because of that mindset, he only made his life worse, until realizing that it's not too late to become the ideal version he sees of himself. In between all the insane shit, the domain expansion due to ego, having an insane lady
Oh my God,
in the
another
consciousness
one.
of humanity speak to somebody about a cow, or even the torturing of an eyeball that came from a star's wish that then produces tears for those to be refined into an ampule that regenerates damage to one's body to then be sold as a way to keep K-Corp's tier business up booming. Yo, look, I gave the heads up that the lore gets kinda nutty, alright? The story has all of this wonder to it, an honestly beautiful world, but at its core, it's about improving yourself as a person. Same goes with Kanto 5. In it, Ishmael
Oh,
laments
really?
the common cycle of life, where you go study, get good grades, get into a college, graduate, get a good job, retire. Due to her not wanting to live that way, she quits, and goes to search for any random job, deciding to become a sailor after seeing the posting for it. That's because she didn't know what she wanted out of life. She had no goals to really aim for. It didn't feel like she was really living through life.
Honestly, this also feels like pretty normal to day-to-day life basis. I've seen like so many people, even like my included, like sometimes taking a break and going for, a different path of the journey to kind of discover what you wanna and what you don't wanna do with your life. Still, I would say Kanto 4 is the one that I'm excited the most
But
now.
instead just drifting through life.
But I
Then,
believe
after joining
this
the
one's gonna
Pequod
be
ship, she meets
also
Keequeg.
equally
And
interested.
with time, she grows to love her, even thinking about how she would love to spend her time walking on the coastline with her. In her life, she had finally found something, or I suppose someone, to live for, Keequeg. That is, until Ahab led them to fight against the Pallid Whale.
I actually have to say, Kanto 1, I really like Yuri. She died. In Kanto 2, it was kinda... That was actually really nice, you know, kind of fun Kanto in my opinion. By the end of the Kanto 2, there was actually a really nice cliffhanger, at least like in my opinion. And the Kanto 3, I kinda start liking the Sadi because she was introduced in the Kanto 2 and going forward to the Kanto 3, and I was like, hey, finally someone that I eventually like and maybe gonna, you know, survive a little longer. And like Kanto 3 ending, fucking hell.
아무도 없어요.
Also, I heard that the
In
Kanto
just one
moving
bite, it
forward
had
is...
taken away everything.
I also heard that the Kanto moving forward is gonna be basically more and more peak. So obviously the people is gonna be some bias, but for some reason I actually do believe
from
it.
Ishmael, supposedly killing Keequeg. Then Ishmael was consumed with her hatred against Ahab, wanting nothing more than to take her life, due to the fact that Ahab led Keequeg against
I'm
the
kinda
Pale
looking
Whale.
forward
That
to
hatred
this
then
moment.
bred the pure obsession to get revenge against Ahab. That becomes her only goal in life. She disregards making friends, doesn't care about anything that will happen in her future.
Nice.
Anything she did in life was just to get revenge against Ahab. Nothing else mattered.
Okay,
And
this is
we
gonna be
saw all of that
interesting.
from her character ever since the casino scene. But now I'll be going into spoilers, so please skip to this timestamp if you do not wish to be spoiled.
Okay, you know what? I'm actually gonna do that and not gonna get spoiled.
And to me, that brings it the extra mile for it to have one of the best casts I've seen out of a game. That is what makes it special in the eyes of anyone who's played it. A bit ago on Twitter, I made a post asking people what they thought the most beautiful line in Limbus Company was. And the replies were filled with people saying how the scene that they love had them so emotionally invested, or how they were able to heavily relate to a specific character. Seeing the growth the cast goes through is the main strength of Limbus Company, and how a lot of people can,
Impossible
unfortunately,
question to
relate. In terms of Project Moon's works,
I feel like if you ask the Limbus Company fans about something, especially some like lines, basically Mission Impossible.
it's not just Limbus that's like that either. Even looking back to Labyrinth Runner, or the worst gaming experience you could ever have, Lobotomy Corporation, the stories have been about
Is it
growth.
really that
There is
bad?
an overarching plot in all of them, but their works have been incredibly character-based. Like Ayn addressing all the hurt he's caused in others, or Angela living through the pain of her past trauma. That has always
kinda
been
look like
Project Moon's
Honglu.
focus. So yes, Limbus Company has one of the best casts I've seen out of a video game, as I haven't seen many characters be this relatable or have me as emotionally invested in their stories. And I wouldn't even say that this video was able to fully cover the depths of the writing. To do that, I would have needed a 3-hour long video. I could have covered how Yi Song's companion's view of the mirror relates to their character, how Heathcliff's character was all developed for one goal, or gone over the 1,000-page doc that shows the story references to the layers in Dante's Inferno. And hell, even the story relations to the original book material. But I wanted to keep the
Oh my, I want to know more about Damien. I had, like, finishing the Kanto 3, I had so many different theories about this dude. I'm just hoping to know or, like, see him more in the future so I can get, you know, a few information nuggets from him. Or at least, like, about him.
length a semi-small for the video and talk about the main reason we love the story in this game that's about a handful of idiots on a sentient bus. Do I think the story is perfect? No.
No.
Do I think its writing is leagues above other really well-written
Yes.
games? No. Do I think the cast is the absolute best? Do I
Wait
think
a
its
minute.
writing is leagues above other really well-written games? No. Do I think the cast
Okay.
is the absolute best we'll see out of any game whatsoever?
Questionable.
Of course not. But personally, this cast and story has had me invested like no other game has been able to. That is why
Nice.
I love it.
I feel like I would be eaten by my community if I finishing these 2 minutes. But I have to say, like, overall, maybe actually I'm gonna be making some video, basically my impression after playing maybe 100 hours in the Limbus Company. But so far, I've been enjoying it a lot. For whatever reason, I kind of like this, you know, a little bit the dark, depressing mood. Also, like the environment and the scenery, it seems to be rather original comparing to, you know, other gacha games. And also at the same time, having, you know, the core of the characters to be like deeply written or basically deeply glued to the main lore. It's really nice. I would say it's really well made. Nothing so far seems to be like really too much, you know, pushy. I also had a bunch of moments of basically surprise. I've experienced also a couple cliffhangers that kind of like left me speechless in a way, especially the very ending and Kanto 2. I just couldn't stop playing the game game because I wanted to know more. Overall, I think it's a pretty decent, decent is maybe a bad word, but it's a pretty good game, especially when it comes to gacha games that I don't need to play basically on daily basis and still, reaping the most benefits, as well as having a really nice and great experience. And now I just can't wait for the count of 4.